Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Capital Conflab. From rugby and football to korfball and kabaddi, we are here to take you through the very best of sport the wonderful city of Cardiff has to offer. So sit back, turn up the volume, and let us take you through the next half an hour here on Capital Conflab. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of Capital Conflab. Niall and I, if you've listened to the first few episodes of our series, we usually have a bit of a chat about our chosen sport beforehand, but unfortunately this week we would struggle to get more than a sentence or two out, I believe. So to help us, we're joined this week by Will Hayward. Thanks for joining us, Will. Why don't you introduce the sport and talk us through what the rules are?
So the sport is korfball, and the fact that you have at least heard of it means you're in the top 1% of players in Wales, which is very impressive, so congratulations. So it's a mixture of basketball and netball, and men and women play on the same team, but men can only mark men and women can only mark women, so it's the only truly gender-neutral sport. Every guy you meet will say it's really like basketball, but actually it is probably more like netball, but the movement is a bit more like handball. So there's two baskets, which are called korfs, which is just the Dutch word for basket, and they are pretty much in the middle of each half. So unlike netball and basketball, where you play all facing one way to attack, your formations are circular because you play around a post. So there's a few rules in terms of travelling and everything. You can take 2 steps with the ball, but the key thing that makes a difference is the defended rule. So if someone can reach your shoulder, you can't shoot. So you need to either get away from that player to take a shot. But that defended rule, if you are between them and the post, it doesn't matter if they can reach your shoulder. So the idea is either to get away from the person and shoot, or get between them and the post. So you mark players one-on-one. It's a very, very basic overview.
Well, I'm sure we'll get our head around it as we...
I'm sorry if that's... It's really hard to describe, and actually when you play it, it is quite logical.
Yeah, it's probably easier to actually show the people how to do it than describe it, I suppose.
Ultimately, you're trying to shoot in a hoop, and that's the main thing. You're trying to shoot in a hoop, but you change ends every 2 goals. So you have an attacking end and a defensive end, and there's 2 guys and 2 girls at each end, and you're always trying to. And every 2 goals you change over, so you can't specialise in one position.
I like that definition. Last week, the guy who we talked to, Richard, about baseball, said as long as you can catch a ball and hit a ball, you can play. And you're saying that ultimately, if you can get a ball through a hoop, you can.
Oh, yes. I mean, even if you can pass to someone else who can get a ball through a hoop, you're still doing a job.
How did you get into it?
Oh, so I used to do taekwondo when I was younger, and I was quite a high level in that, and then I tore my cartilage in my knee twice when I was 16 and 17. So I came to Cardiff University, and I wanted to play a sport competitively, but the problem is if you start playing football or you start playing cricket or rugby at university, the standard is really high because everyone who's playing it has played it since they were young. So I saw that there was a sport called korfball, and you've got an even distribution of men and women, and so it's quite a fun environment. It tends not to be as macho as a rugby club. I mean, you can't really be macho and say you play korfball, and it tends not to have quite as cliquey as some netball clubs stereotypically might be seen to be. I went along and started playing in 2008, and I've now played 12 years. We were
discussing just before you came on that dynamic of not a dressing room but a team room with both an even number of men and women is something which most sports people would be completely alien to them. I imagine the level of competitiveness is still exactly the same though.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the 2 most competitive players I've ever played with were both women by miles, and I think the good thing about the sport is because guys can only mark guys and women can only mark women, it means that all you have to be is better than the person who you're playing against. So when we first started a club in 2012, our best player was a woman who was not as tall or as quick as any of the guys, but she was better at shooting than every girl she played against. So the guy's job was just to give her the ball and just make it so that she could score. So it does allow you to, you're only as strong as your weakest player. So the idea is to try and target the weakest players on the opposition, and whatever gender that is, that's how you tend to. It's a bit brutal, really.
I was just going to say, that sounds a bit horrible, really.
It is. It's just kind of picking out the weak ones. It's all about the matchups. So if you've got, you tend to find actually the best player isn't necessarily the most important, because the strongest person will usually be marked by the best person on the other team. So you can cancel each other out. So it's the people kind of who are like the third or fourth strongest players who tend to actually make the difference in games. So if your fourth best player has an amazing game, they tend to be against a weaker player, and it's really interesting, and it's you can learn it very, very quickly. But getting to know the tactics and stuff is, well, I wouldn't say I know them yet, and I've coached for 8 years. So
where would you rank yourself within the teams you've played?
I'm definitely in the top 100 players in Wales, but I think there's about 120. So that's. It depends. When I played for Wales, I was very much like a spare part. My only job was to give the ball to the good women. But in the club, like the club we've started now in Newport, I'm probably, I'd blow my own trumpet, one of the stronger players, just because I'm the only person who's played. But in a couple of years, a lot of our players, I'm sure, will overtake me.
So what you started playing for Cardiff University then? Is that what they called it? It's not the Cobras, that's the American football team.
No, the Cobras, the
American football, yeah.
I don't think they've actually got a team name. I think it's just Cardiff University Korfball Club.
Fair enough.
I mean, I guess with korfball, you can't. No one joins going, oh yeah, I've come to uni, I really want to play korfball. Like if someone turns up and has played before, they're usually Dutch, and they're only there for a year on Erasmus. Well, now we've got rid of Erasmus, but as an exchange student. So I think you kind of want to be very simple, because no one's going to go looking for a korfball team. So you need to kind of say, yeah, this is what we are. So I would guess that's why there's not a name. So I played for Cardiff University. I left once I graduated, I played for a club called Cardiff Dragons, who no longer exist. And after a year, I started Cardiff Raptors with a couple of friends. And we left that club last year, and we started another club in Newport called Newport Centurions. So I think of the clubs in Wales, I think I've played or founded like something like 70% of them. It's a sad indictment on my free time.
No, you know someone who plays it, don't you? Who we met once, who knows Will.
Yeah, is this Steve Bennett?
Oh yeah, Steve. So Steve started the Newport team with us. Steve's a great guy. Runs his own theatre company as well. The korfball couldn't get any camper.
So you play in Newport now. Is there a team still in Cardiff?
Yeah, there's 3 teams in Cardiff. So there's Cardiff Raptors. There's Cardiff City, which was founded in 2001, I think, from ex-Cardiff Uni members. And then there's the university as well. There's teams in Swansea. There's one in Aberystwyth. And then there's the Newport one. So there's a Welsh National League, but kind of above that there's the English Regional League, which actually Wales teams play in. So Cardiff Raptors and Cardiff City both play in that, and then the league above that is the English National League, which is that's a really, really high standard. That's kind of 3 or 4 times a week trainings, and that's their actual sports people.
Do you get derby games? I know obviously you said there's 2 in Cardiff. When you were playing for the Raptors, is there, like in football when Cardiff play Swansea or when teams play their local teams, it's got a bit more edge to it? Is that a thing?
Yeah, there is. I mean, the thing is, it is quite weird, because I mean, for us, it's a big derby game when Newport plays Raptors, because we've played and founded both teams. So it probably means more to us than it does to them. But it is definitely, there's a lot of competition between the Cardiff City and Cardiff Raptors. That's quite a kind of grudge match. But I think it's such a small world as well. I think in a way it's nice, because you get to know a lot of people within it. But also, obviously, when you're like running leagues and you're playing, it can get quite competitive. Especially because like the standard, like the Welsh team is a pretty decent standard. Like we're not all based in Wales. Well, I say we all. I haven't played for the. I stopped playing for the Welsh team a couple of years ago. Once I got a real job, that made it a bit harder.
Are you from Wales originally?
No. So I'm from Northampton originally. that I had, like, I never thought I could, like, when I arrived, I didn't think I could play for, well, it was never going to be an option to play international sport for anyone, really. But with korfball, once you've lived somewhere for 3 years, you can qualify on residency. And I've only ever played korfball in Wales, and all my coaches were Welsh. So I feel korfball-wise, I am Welsh. But I think when the World Cup or if the Euros had been happening this year, I probably wouldn't have been. Of my 13 years as an adult, I've lived 12 of them in Wales. So I feel like I've only ever played.
Yeah, we'll let him off on this one. And that was part of the reason we did this podcast as well. Not only did we want to learn about things like korfball or baseball, because we didn't know until last week that there's a team in Cardiff that
baseball's awesome.
Well, we're going to go down. We're going to go down and try it. The Cardiff Merlins, it is apparently the team.
The Cardiff what are they called?
Merlins.
Merlins, as in like the magician.
As in, I think they actually meant the small bird of prey.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. Not the wizard.
No, although we established last week that Richard was telling us that the reason they called the Merlins is because the guy who came up with the name was a fan of the Marlins, the American baseball team, and he thought that people might spell it wrong if they were Googling it and come across...
Nice. Search engine optimization, I like it.
Yeah, in the naming of a team, which is great. So, on which note, where did Centurions come from?
Well, Raptors originally was because I love Jurassic Park, and then when my mate Jimmy was saying, let's start another club, we could do it, and I was like, oh god, no, it's a lot of work, I'm not sure I can be bothered. And I love Roman history, and because of like Killian and everything, he was like, we could call them Centurions, so it was kind of a way to like entice me to join in. But originally we were going to try and base ourselves in Killian, but there wasn't really the sports halls and stuff around there, so it was Newport Centurions instead.
It's all indoor, isn't it?
So the competitive, like the leagues and internationals, are all indoors, but you do summer tournaments where you just tape out, usually on rugby pitches in the summer, which, I mean, that tends to be a drinking occasion with a side of sport. But there's also beach korf, and there's beach korf tournaments, so it's the same, but you play on one post and you just play on the beach. But that's absolutely exhausting because the movement for korfball is in and out. So it's all changing direction. So you're either running forwards or backwards usually. So on stand, that's pretty tiring. But it is really good fun. I mean, like I'd only ever played I've done taekwondo, and I'm a big football fan, and I played and watched lots of football, but I'd never really played a catching sport other than a bit of cricket. So it took me a bit of getting used to.
I didn't realise we had taekwondo in common. I did it. I got to black belt, and then, like you, stopped because of my knees.
I think loads of people leave because of their knees. It's just you either get really flexible or you just break.
I broke, yeah.
Yeah, I broke.
But it's good to know that I could still play. I still give korfball a try.
Yeah, I mean, korfball. Annoyingly, I've actually had surgery on my knees twice since I've started playing korfball because it is quite knee intensive, which is why I coach a little bit more now, and that was another factor in me stopping playing internationally. But it is quite it's very knee intensive.
You mentioned it's Dutch. I imagine. Is there a World Cup? I assume there is.
Yeah, there's a World Championships. My only Welsh caps are actually at the World Championships in China. Which was awesome. So the best the teams that get paid to play are basically the Dutch and the Belgians, and then oddly enough, Catalonia has a team, which is quite fun, really. So them and Chinese Taipei, which is Taiwan, also have a team, and they're like they're the third and fourth teams, and then England are kind of around that level as well. But the Belgians and Dutch almost always contest the final, and the Dutch almost always win. I mean, it helps that I think they're the tallest nation in the world. If I remember the opening ceremony, I'm 5'8", and I was standing there. I think the two Dutch guys next to me were both a foot taller than me. It was it was pretty devastating. I was like looking them right in the nipple. So that was good. But it's so there is international tournaments, like there's Europeans. I know people who've to go out to South Africa for World Championships and stuff. It is quite quite an international sport.
How was that experience? I mean, I didn't realise you can claim that you've basically played at a World Cup for Wales, which obviously, I mean, not many people could say that, especially from Northampton.
Especially from, well, it was quite weird. So you got, I'd say 60% of the team were, I'll say, organically Welsh, and then the rest of us were
adopted.
I don't want to say imposters.
Adopted Welsh.
But yeah, I mean, it was an awesome experience. I mean, you go there and you get there's an opening ceremony, and it's so. I mean, there was loads of people there, but I'm not sure if that's just because the Chinese government made people go in. I can't imagine everyone in this. I say provincial Chinese town. I think there's 7 million people there, but it was Shaoxing, and it was really, really full, and people were cheering. But I can't imagine a lot of people in Shaoxing were really
huge korfball fans.
Big balls of Dutch korfball. I think they might have been actively encouraged by their government, should we say, to go in. But yeah, it was an awesome experience. I mean, it's really we're here standing there for a national anthem, especially because I tried so hard to learn the words.
How did you get on?
I could do it at the time, and
could you give us a rendition?
Now I can sing it really passionately, but I'm pretty sure I'm just making noises similar to the words.
Go on, give us a rendition.
No. I can't.
All you can say is Gwlad, and that's it.
My Welsh credibility hangs by a thread as it is. People on Twitter, it's a real. I've tried to learn Welsh, and I'm still. I suppose I am still trying. But yeah, it was awesome. And what was really nice is it was my first kind of experience of being I mean, I'd only ever really experienced Welsh sport in terms of International Days of the Six Nations, and it was really nice to be just part of a team. And actually, I ended up almost being anti-English. I turned into such a I went really native. I was like, what am I doing? I'm a West Bromwich Albion fan.
Became so Welsh that you started hate. That's brilliant.
I know. Well, it wasn't hate. It was just. I was just like, oh god, England team came out. I was like, a bit cocky, aren't they?
That's brilliant. West Brom, I imagine, to change the sport for a second, but your decision, I guess, is still in the balance with Leeds fans. And
God, I know. I'm really torn. So I had a season ticket at the Hawthorns for about 10 years, and that was when we were. Can we swear on the podcast?
I'll bleep it. It's fine.
It's when we were really and it's we went up into the Premier League under Gary Megson, and we went down, then we went back up again. But that year we stayed up under Brian Robson when we were bottom on the last day of the season. Was one of my favourite football memories. But I really think the Premier League is I think it's just a recipe for miserable fans. No fans are really happy. If you're fighting against relegation, you just stay up your first year, you're happy, but then everyone's miserable. You're either going down, you're either not doing enough, you're not spending enough. There's 5 teams that could realistically say they want to win it, and only one of them's going to. This year, maybe none of them will. Everyone's miserable. Championship is awesome.
Am I right in saying you wrote an article similar to that theme and got, some feedback, let's say, off Twitter for it?
I got, I basically said, I think it was when Cardiff were in their promotion year. So yeah. I was doing social affairs correspondent then, and I switched over to sport when Cardiff got promoted that day, and it was awesome, and everyone was so happy, and I didn't want to be a miserable swine about it, but God, it's hard to it's once you go up. I mean, going to games always expecting to lose, and the best case scenario is you scrape a win. After a while, you're just I'm paying a lot of money. I want to enjoy this, and the Championship's great because there's massive clubs there. I mean, you could go to this year. You could have gone to the Hawthorns, you've gone to Ellen Road, you've gone to the Cardiff City Stadium. Massive clubs, and they play twice a week. It's awesome. It's wicked.
I think you've spent.
Then you go to the Premier League and you get to watch. You just get to be patronised and described as a lesser club, when actually what they mean is smaller club. But they use the phrase lesser club. It's just screw you.
I actually genuinely think that the Championship is the best league.
Yes,
but like you said, it's just so unpredictable. It just makes it more exciting.
Yeah, mate, I totally agree. I had a pitch this year, and it wouldn't happen. I don't think I carry much weight at West Brom, but I wanted us to get first or second, and then make a deal with whoever's in third that they could go up, but we got half the money because we really need the money so we don't lose all our players. I want us to still be fun, but I want us to just stay in the championship, just swashbuckling around.
Well, to switch, to go right back to where we were with korfball, we've gone off on a slight tangent.
You went over to a real sport.
Well, I like to think korfball is a real sport as well, even though I know far less about it. The last two guests we've got on, we've sort of in the spirit of lockdown given them a few quiz questions on their chosen sport. This week, because the amount of information out there on korfball is, let's say, limited, I was wondering if you would be able to we'll throw the spotlight on ourselves, myself and Niall. If you could, based on what you've taught us and what we've learned, if you could give Niall 3, I'm going to throw him under the bus. Give him 3, I'll take 2. As a team, we'll try and field your korfball questions.
Okay, all right. Who are the best 2 teams in the world at korfball?
Go on, Niall. You go first.
Belgium and Holland, I'm going to say.
Nice.
Yes.
You're a pro.
I thought you were going to ask him for the Chinese city. I was going to say that's harsh.
I was going to say I didn't tell you how many points it was for a goal.
Oh, you didn't.
I could get. Go on, I'll take a guess.
Go on. I'll punt it.
Oh, okay, fair play. How many points is it for a goal?
I'll take, because this is going to be wrong, but I'll give you my theory. Because you said that the guys on the team like to think it's more like basketball, I'll say 2.
I was going to say 2 as well, but
unfortunately, it's 1.
It's 1, is it?
It's always 1.
Is there any way of getting more? Is every basket 1?
Every basket's 1. So you're better off taking easy shots from close in if you can, than the glory-seeking shots from miles away.
And just quickly as well, how long is a game?
Game's 60 minutes.
Is it 4 15s or?
No, 2 30-minute halves.
2 30s, right.
Which is, a few leagues play 20-minute halves, but they play real time. So
like in rugby where you start.
When the ball goes out, it carries on. But they play real time, so actually 20 minutes real time, I think, sometimes ends up as long or longer than 30 minutes.
All right. Well, I'll take the loss. I'll take the L on that one. No.
Okay. You change ends, so you can't be in any. You're not in one fixed position. How often do you change ends?
After 2 goals?
Yes. Oh, yes. Very good.
I mean, we're a team. I'm actually pleased you get it right, but I feel like we're head to head, which is this.
I know. Well, because you're both on my screen, it looks like you are.
It's head to head now, mate.
Feels like a classic Zoom quiz. This does.
Can you give me? Okay then, Phil. Can you give me 2 clubs in Cardiff? I'll give you 2 clubs in Wales.
I mean, I remember that you said overall in Wales there was one in Aberystwyth. There were a couple in Swansea. Cardiff were, don't get it confused with the American football now. The Raptors.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. The Cobras is the Cardiff American football. And then it was just Cardiff City, you said.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And then
the big Centurions in Newport.
So some call them the greatest team in Wales.
I'll take that. Right, we're 3 out of 4. Go on now, bring us home.
Okay.
Oh, great. Pressure's on that.
I don't know if I actually mentioned. How many people are on a team?
Oh, research beforehand has paid off, mate. You literally
8?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, you said earlier that you read that it could be 4 men and 4 women, or 8 women. Was that what you were saying?
Yeah, that's what I read, but I could be completely wrong. That's depend whatever leagues and stuff you're in. But
I mean, in terms of how the gameplay works, so because men can only mark men and women can only mark women, if everybody can mark everyone, it actually becomes really, really hard to score. Because so if you could play kind of any mix of genders, I suppose, technically, but you'd have to kind of give yourself bibs and say, you are the men, you are the women.
Right.
Else it would just be chaos because everyone could mark everyone.
I guess how many points are in a regular game? So, obviously, a football you can have 0-0s and 1-0s, and then basketball the other end, hundreds against hundreds.
So the higher level you go, the more goals there are.
Yeah.
So once you reach a certain level, it's actually really hard to stop people shooting. It's a bit like basketball in that regard. You've just got to shoot better and just try and pressure the shots as much as possible. in the Welsh league that we play in now, Centurions, you have kind of 13-8 was the score in our first win that we got. And then, but like we've played, when you play like the league above us, we played games which are like 19-18.
Right.
But international, you often see kind of 24-25 each.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it can be fairly free scoring, and obviously that's you have a shot clock as well, so there is pressure to put shots up, and I mean I think it's a fairly good return if you see 50 goals in a 60-minute game, you're getting a bit of entertainment.
And how would you if you had a minute to look at the camera and sell korfball to anyone who wanted to play? Anyone sitting at home thinking after lockdown ends, I need to take up something new.
A minute. Can I do a 30-second pitch to women and a 30-second pitch to men?
Yeah, do it. I love that.
Yeah, go on.
To men, I would say it's your time. Even if you've been rubbish at every other sport, it could be a time where you could actually be a big dog in something. If you're rubbish at everything else, it's a time you could actually be an alpha male. You get really, really fit. It is really tiring. You instantly have a really good friendship group of both genders as well. If it was women, I would say it's a really great way to get fit. The guys are totally non-threatening and borderline weedy. It's a really good way, again, to have a well-rounded friendship group. It's a really good way to start a sport from scratch, because if you fell out of playing sport in PE, but you want to get back into it, but are a bit hesitant, nobody joins a korfball club knowing how to play. So come along, because everyone starts as a new player. No one walks in as an experienced korfballer. So come along. Unless you're Dutch, in which case we expect you to know. If you're Dutch, please join Newport Centurions.
Yeah, anyone from Holland who's now living in Newport or around Caerleon, get yourself to the Centurions. They're in need. Brilliant. Will, thank you very much for coming on. We really appreciate it. Nice to talk korfball and football. Mate, I think when lockdown ends, we're going to have to make a point of going to all these teams. And
I'm actually keen to do it.
I'm really keen.
Very keen.
We'll go trial. We'll trial our baseball.
You'll be a god.
I'm quite tall, 6'4". I used to play basketball. Well, I'll give it a go.
Oh my god, you can catch as well. You're overqualified.
Amazing. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, mate. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for the invite.
Cheers.
Well, thanks for Will coming on. Pleasure to have you on, like all of our guests. So I think we learned more this week than we have in the previous weeks, haven't we, mate?
Oh, definitely, mate. It's actually quite nice to learn about the sport and someone come on and properly tell us the rules and everything about it, which I thought was really good.
It's a rare day that me and you are dumbfounded when it comes to sport. It's usually our go-to where we could talk about it all day.
Very true, yeah. It's a bit surprising, to be fair.
I think, as we touched upon, I think, and we've been chatting, haven't we, this week, getting down to these clubs, we'll get a camera, won't we? We'll have to go down, film ourselves.
Make it basically, it fools ourselves while playing this new sports we're going to try.
If Will's right, he said I could be a god at korfball, so I think that might be a bit of a stretch, but I'm quite tall, so that could be helpful.
I'll say it sounds like your help helps you a lot. I think my height won't be as great, but...
Well, you're taller than he is, and he played for Wales, so...
No, only just.
Only just. Well, I think it proves that height isn't important. Russell Westbrook was a small man on a basketball pitch, but was one of the best players out there. So great to learn about a new sport. It sounds absolutely fascinating. If you glossed over the mid part of the podcast, and now Will did quiz us on a few korfball questions from the podcast. If you want to quiz yourself, if you didn't hear them, they're on our social media. We upload the quiz questions, either we ask or this week we got asked. Spotlight was on us. Sorry for throwing you under the bus.
That's all right, mate. I still won anyway, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, no, we were a team. We got 4 out of 5, which we're behind Andy Campbell, who got all 5. But we have upped Richard of the Cardiff Merlins. So I think 4 out of 5 was quite solid, considering 2 of the questions he didn't tell us in the podcast.
That's true. That's very true.
So they're saved to I think it's called a highlight on Instagram, if my memory serves me correctly. So if you want to go test yourself, and there's options to fire some quiz questions at us if you want to see if you can test our brains. It has to be said, if it's korfball, we're unlikely to get it right. quiz question which we put on Twitter got retweeted, didn't it, by the president? I have to get the title right now. The president of International Korfball Federation, a gentleman called Jan Fransu, who, unsurprisingly, being the president of Korfball, is from Holland, which appears to be the world's best. So yeah, it's nice that we're getting out there, and there seems to be an appetite for the sport, which many people, I'm sure, listening wouldn't have heard of before today. So that's great news. What have we got coming up? What have we got next week? Well, we've got two. We've got two people on next week.
Two people coming.
We've got two people coming on next week. One of them I'm delighted about. If you listen to our baseball podcast, which came out, well, it's the episode before this one. I talked. My mind went back to a YouTube clip I'd seen of a player playing baseball over in Asia, doing some crazy catch, and he's reached out to us, incredibly. And whilst has no connection with Cardiff, which is part of this podcast, I thought it'd be great to have him on and chat to him. You know, former MLB professional baseball player. There's not many of those who I'm imagining we're going to come on a Cardiff podcast, so that's exciting. And we're diving back into football again, aren't we?
Yeah, going back into football to the women's side of things.
With the women's football, yes. So we have a guest also coming on from America. So Capital Conflab goes worldwide. We go worldwide next week. We dipped our toe into Holland this week. We've reached the States next week, which is great news. So really excited for that. 2 guests on, and then we've just had our guest for the episode after that confirmed, which we can keep a secret for now. But already absolutely buzzing for that. Yeah, hugely excited to bring that. If you want to listen to the podcast, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Deezer. We also put everything on YouTube, and you can go straight to the source on Audioboom if you want to listen to us there. Unless you have anything else to add, mate, I think that's us for this week.
I think it is us for next week.
That's us for this week. Thank you for listening and learning, hopefully, about korfball. I hope you learned as much as we did and enjoyed. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Capital Conflab. If you have a story you want featured, then get in touch. But for now, until next time, you've been listening to Capital Conflab.